This is the final word, the West Indies Australia Daily. Jeff Lemmet, Adam Collins at Kensington Oval in Bridgetown, Barbados, where it was day two. It was day two today. A whole day of Test cricket happened. Your job in the show, brought to you by Maurice Blackburn, the #1 plaintiff law firm in Australia, is to tell us about the entire day in the space of 30 seconds.
Windies resumed 123 behind with 6 wickets in hand. Should have lost one in the first over. Come back to that later. A couple of drop chances early on. Excellent partnership between Shy Hope and Roston Chase either side of lunch. Worth 67, however, at that point they lost 5 for 55, all out 190, 3 for Stark, a couple for the other big quicks. From there, with a 10-run lead, the West Indies bowled very nicely up top. They created loads of chances. Constas dropped twice in the first over. Joseph bowled 4 for 65 at one stage. They recovered to a certain extent. 4 for 92 at the close. Australia lead by 82. Webster there with head.
Yes.
Much more to talk about.
That's it. I mean, I think you've nailed the things that actually happened today. I don't know if you want to start at the beginning, or I don't know if you want to start. My instinct, my emotional instinct, is I want to start with Shamar Joseph's opening spell again, as we did yesterday.
Sure. Happy to do that.
It's the same story. But it's even a more extreme version of the same story, because he comes on through his first over, belting in from that Joel Garner end. I was down at that end watching him, pretty much behind the arm at that point as he was tearing in. The pace, the relentless length, he hits that length so consistently, hits a line, makes the ball do things, makes the ball move, gets the edge from Constas, which gets dropped. 2 balls later, gets the edge from Constas again, which gets dropped again. And my poor tired heart was breaking in my chest, because that's what happened in the first innings, and he ended up with 4 for when he should have had about 9 for. And then this time, he's got none for after this point. And things changed a little bit later on, a little bit, but not as much as they should have. Why can't you catch the ball, West Indies? They did their slips catching at the tea break. It was an early tea break. They didn't drop one. They did not drop one. They had 4 slips in a row, and they took everything that came their way. And then as soon as the game started, down they went, going to the right, like 4th slip, and then the 1 to 2nd slip, Graves, that just went into the hands and straight down. Easier catch, you're not going to get it slip unless it just loops gently towards your forehead. And they weren't taken. I don't know why drop catches make me so sad, Adam, but they do. Yeah,
I mean, no catch at slip's easy. I want to make sure that's said very clearly for the record. It's a very, very difficult job when the ball's coming out at pace with the new ball. But from a technique perspective, you're right. I mean, they practice so much at it that the only thing you can attribute to the missed chances today to, especially the first one, is just the tension and the nerves of a test match. Moving to his right, pretty straightforward chance. Second one was a little bit harder moving forward, but it was more the drama of that first over with Sam Konstas charging at that the 4th ball that he faced from Shamar Joseph. It's hard to reconcile the batter we're seeing at moments like that and then struggling to have any degree of fluency thereafter with the batter who we saw in the Shield at the start of last season record twin hundreds, the guy that made that excellent 100 against India A. Different story when he was playing for Australia on Boxing Day. That was a completely different role, and he was quite keen to talk about how he'd lost control of his emotions a little bit around that time, acknowledging he did a great job on Boxing Day, but the whole thing got big on him, right? Yeah. As you'd expect for a 19-year-old. What this week was about was, I think, it certainly felt like, reminding people of why he's been an outstanding opener at every level, why he's made hundreds everywhere he's gone, and where he could be a long-term banker for Australia. Charging the 4th ball felt more like the kind of mindset you're in when you don't know where you're at, and I don't quite know why that's the case. Yeah, you missed out yesterday, but I don't quite get the bits in between. Where is this a matter of coaching or messaging? Certainly Usman Khawaja, when he did it, came straight down the pitch and berated him. I say berated, it's probably overplaying it, but gave him a stern talking to, the bloke who's twice his age. Mentorship there, I guess, to a certain extent.
Didn't stop him doing it a few more times, Constas, over the next few overs. He looked like a player who just didn't know what his job was and didn't know how to approach it. Like he was in about 7 different minds. He was defending some from the crease and trying to be conventional, and then once in a while he'd go wandering and swish at the ball and miss it, and it goes on for, I don't know, 7, what was it? It was
he faced 30.
Joseph's 5th over.
Yeah, he faced 38 balls, and he was out in the 6th over when he chopped on. And look, I just feel like with him, he's clearly a player of some real prodigious talent. I hope that this wanting to fast track him to Test cricket isn't going to be counterproductive to his interest. It's very, very, very difficult to draw that conclusion on the basis of what we've seen. I'm always aware that, cricket's extremely difficult. Test cricket is as hard as it gets. They're judged on an extraordinarily difficult curve, and the pressure is profound. But I hope that subjecting him to it as it is right now doesn't end up being something that we look at a year or two down the track and go, gee, I wish I had just waited a wee bit.
Yeah.
It's way too early to make that call, but I'm now a little bit worried about that where I wasn't a week ago.
There's the anxiety around it, and he'll have the anxiety around it as well. And he would have the anxiety. He had the anxiety today. You could see that in the innings. So Joseph, a few overs later, comes back. I mean, he beat him that many times, going past the outside edge, going away. And Shamar Joseph, to be very clear about it, did a TV interview last night where they asked him about how he got Sam Konstas out in the first innings, and he laid the whole thing bare and said, yeah, watched him play in the India series, watched his weakness against the incoming ball, decided to get a few going away from him and then start the ones coming in.
Yep.
He does that for 5 overs at him today, and then gets the ball to come in inside edge onto the stumps.
It was almost the bottom of the bat, wasn't it?
Yeah,
He almost ran the ball down. It didn't quite get up as high as Constas. So it wasn't a classic chop on where you expect the inside edge playing away from the body. It was a bit different to that, but it was indecisive footwork
that got him. And it really stands out to me that when a bowler has literally said on global television the night before, this is how I plan to get you out, and then gets you out that way, that's a very bad sign.
Oh, look, I doubt he's taking that in. I wouldn't have thought that Sam Konstas is poring over the press conference comments. He's got to do his own thing and prepare his own way.
We should get back to him though. Like,
well, it's hardly putting man on the moon that guys are going to bring the ball back to Constas based on what we've seen of him at Shield level and playing for Australia in that brief time. Like, it's very obvious that bowlers are going to do that. So I think it's more about I don't know, is it mindset? Because we saw how cocksure and confident that he was when he first started, and today he looked timid, and I think that's partly a function of the shot. I hate to come back to it for a second time, but that shot early on, it was as ugly as it gets. Head in one part of the ground, bat, body in the other part. I know he's trying to move the game forward, but giving away the stumps, going leg side of it, was white ball stuff. It's not the type of shot that's conducive to long-term success in Test cricket. Sometimes find when people talk down the orthodoxy of Test cricket, to almost sort of suggesting that all of the combined collective wisdom is not worth a jot because, I know better than this. I'm not saying that Constas has that arrogant disposition, but a lot of players do, where I actually know better than that. I know what I'm doing more than...
I don't need to waste my time doing the thing that you all were doing,
right?
Because I'm different. Yeah,
there's a reason why those who have excelled at Test level in that very challenging position, opening the batting, have done so within the same kind of tram tracks. With some outliers, but broadly speaking in the same kind of tram tracks.
Orthodoxy can be challenged, but it can also be looked at for information. It can be used.
Yeah, and that's the way he played when he first burst onto the scene. I come back to the reporting, and Pete was out there, he's sitting over there on the ground right now. Pete was out there at the prison watching him make those twin hundreds against South Australia earlier in the year, and that was the defining characteristic, built on a sturdy, solid defence. I know he tried today on comms. We're saying, like, you could see after his little brain explosion at the start, he was giving it his best shot to have that bat and pad glued together. That I guess we spent 5 minutes talking about one dismissal, and it is a little bit over the top, but that's how important that little passage felt, because it meant it did feel they were skittish. I know Khawaja batted fluently until the moment when Joseph got one to swing back towards his pad. That'll happen. Alzari Joseph in his first over had brought the heat, good on him for it. And then the other dismissal that'll really stand out is Cameron Green. If you were giving slips practice on a Tuesday night at training, you would do it just like that. With the back knee bent. TV did a good summary of that back knee bent and guiding it into the hands of first slip, where Roston Chase, at long last, they took advantage of a chance behind the wicket.
And it's Justin Graves who they don't seem to rate enough to play cautiously enough against him, because he gets good bounce. He may not be that quick, but he's tall and he gets high bounce, and we've seen players trying to cut him and being undone by that bounce a few different times now. That's how Green gets out after 2 reprieves. He was given out LBW, ball tracking showed it going over in a weird sort of projection that seemed a bit inconsistent with some of the other projections that we've seen. And then there was another tetchy
Hall of Fame.
Adrian Holdstock one.
I want to do that in depth in Hall of Fame. I've now learnt more about it, and I think it's worthy of longer discussion.
Good. Let's come back to that then. So, and then Josh Inglis, who's muddled again and leaves a ball that comes back in and takes his off stump.
A tough one that I kind of felt for him, because he was leaving on length, not on line.
Can we do a bit about Perth? You know, in Perth, sometimes players race in Perth, they leave on length.
Yeah, maybe. I just think more that this pitch has actually had really good carry, and he trusted that carry, and this one didn't get up as high as he thought. That'll happen. That's the game, you know. That's the sport. A marginal misjudgment when doing his best to tough it out, and he had been to that point. He'll learn from that. He'll be, I've got no concerns about Josh Inglis being a long-term Test cricketer. I don't think anyone really does. It's just he's just going to have to find his way, and hopefully he can get into the series next week in Grenada. Or is it Grenada? Is it Grenada or Grenada? Tomato. I'm really struggling with this.
Is it Jamaica or Jamaica?
I've heard both repeatedly. Grenada. I know in Spain it's Grenada. Is it Grenada? here?
I'm now confused. I've completely lost all
Sorry.
confidence. Completely lost confidence. 4 down by the end. They were 4 for 65, and then they were 4 for 90 odd by the time they got the stumps.
Bo Webster batted well.
Did very well.
And I thought Travis Head, after getting hit a couple of times, he's batted to, 13, and Webster 19 from 24, who was able to put pressure back, great footwork, and he was able to sort of dictate terms a bit towards the end. He was placing the ball
cleanly in a way that others weren't. He was punching it square a few times, got on the front foot, which is relatively easy when you're 9 feet tall. Looks like the player they'll be relying on tomorrow, so they need Webster, Head, Carey and the tail to be able to put together enough.
Last thing about the Windies bowlers, they all played their role today, all 4 in a quartet. Don't we all love the idea of a West Indies pace quartet working in concert? John Warrican is theoretically the 4th bowler as a spinner, yet to be needed in this test match due to the circumstances.
Faced 2 balls as a night
Yeah,
watch
we interviewed Mitch Stark before, and he was like, there are patches on the pitch which do one thing and patches that do another. No batter feels set. So it is a test where fast bowlers working together can be really difficult, and they've all taken a wicket here. They've all bowled probing spells. I was chuffed for Jaden Seals. Obviously, Shamar Joseph earned his wicket. Alzari Joseph getting into it early, which isn't often the case. And we've already talked about Graves taking a wicket in both innings as the all-rounder. So even if they lose here, let's not do projections, that's not our thing really, but even if they don't get over the line here, they're in the series, and that's not for nothing when, previously when the Windies have played Australia the last 3 times, they've not gotten into the series. They've been smothered before they've had a chance to get into the series. So that augurs well for the next 3 weeks.
That thing you talked about yesterday about feeling like it was, like it had a link to the old Barbados. There was some of that today.
It was good. It was really good.
Sitting down in the crowd for some of it, there was energy, there was atmosphere. It's not that full, like you can see the empty patches on the TV, but the chunks of the ground that have people in them are vocal, and there are West Indies supporters here and they are vocal. So I guess we go back to their batting at the start of the day.
And without huge amounts to say on it, other than I'm really glad that Shai Hope's back in the Test arena. He was unlucky to be dismissed, I thought. I actually think that was the one that should have gone the way of the batter. I'm normally an outer, as people on this podcast would know.
Yep.
I felt like that was, with momentum going downwards, I was less keen on that decision from Adrian Holstock.
If you hadn't seen that, that's Carey diving to his left, and he lands with the glove on the ground first.
Kind of like a cartwheel. It didn't feel...
First point of contact is the glove,
Yeah.
sort of facing down, although it's closed. So is there some part of the ball touching the ground? I don't know.
It's a bit stark at Lords.
Yes.
Or maybe not quite as extreme as that.
No.
So,
less obvious. It was less clear because the glove's obscuring it.
And I admired Roston Chase having been dropped early, and that leg before, which we'll come back to in Hall of Fame, kind of really bunkering down and allowing Hope to take the initiative.
Yep.
Some beautiful shots. Indeed, Chase hit a 6 into the which stand is this? The Hewitt Innes stand, which was the shot of the day against the spin of Nathan Lyon. But Hope played a beautiful shot over Lyon's head. Glorious cover drive early on as well. So after 4 years away from the Test arena, they want him to be a keeper bat. They want him playing Test cricket. We want him playing Test cricket. We want him to be a player who doesn't average 25 at the end.
Yep.
We want him to be the guy that had that peak of making twin tons in that magnificent victory at Leeds back in 2017. So, yeah, a good performing Shai Hope back in the Test team's good for cricket.
And it was just a very solid Australian pace bowling performance, basically. Lyon takes the last wicket, getting slogged down the ground, but the rest of it is the quicks doing their thing, Cummins landing it on the seam and jagging the ball in repeatedly until it eventually hit the top of off stump. You had Hazelwood with the wicket early from the leave by Brandon King that knocked off stump back as well. And then Webster coming on for 2 important wickets when he got the ball to do quite a bit.
Pretty handy, Webster. And just coming back to Cummins, straight after lunch when they needed a wicket, that partnership was 63 at lunch. He cut it off within 3 overs. Some brilliant bowling from Cummins to take responsibility for the situation, eventually sneaking one through and trapping Chase leg before. Jeff, that's the state of play. Should we do break, Hall of Fame and talk about the LB bit?
Yes.
So I do think that warrants just a minute or two.
We've got a chunky Hall of Fame today,
Okay.
I feel. Right, Maurice Blackburn.
Take it away.
They are Australia's #1 plaintiff law firm. If you want a plaintiff law firm, that's the one for you. They're mostly about looking after the rights of workers. That's something that they've been about since 1919 when they were founded. And particularly one of their areas especially is superannuation insurance, to make sure that workers who need insurance policies paid out when insurers don't want to pay them out can get that to happen.
Yep, offices around Australia, 30 of them, but that's not the only way you can be in touch with them. Link in the show notes. And Maurice Blackburn, Australia's #1 plaintiff law firm, some of the best lawyers in the country, and most of their work is on a no-win, no-fee basis. We are always proud to be in an association with a law firm that's got working people always front of mind and always by their side. We'll return in a moment with the Hall of Fame, then we'll say goodbye.
It is the final word daily. It's West Indies, Australia, Hall of Fame, plenty going on today. One thing I want to start with, which isn't a commercial thing, but because we're in the Caribbean, and I'm thinking Brian Lara, and I'm thinking 501. There's a documentary that has been made about Brian Lara's 501, Not Out, which is an independent doco, which is quite hard to see because it's not on main streaming operations, but it's got a screening in 2 days in London.
Oh, right.
So I think it's the Ritzy Cinema, the one in Brixton.
Yeah, in Brixton, yeah.
It's got a one-night screening on the 28th, and I found out about this today, so I just wanted to let people know, because I've seen it, and it's bloody brilliant, but it will be difficult to see. So if you can get down to the cinema in London on the 28th, please do.
I've been there many times. I always admire the fact that they named the cinema after Nathan Horrocks.
Yeah, incredible.
It's a good thing to do.
His contributions to the genre.
Yeah.
You know, the way that the innovations that he brought in, shooting from a low camera angle to signify a sense of power, a bit of Vaseline on the lens when required to give a certain atmosphere. These are the kind of innovations that Nathan Horrocks brought in.
All right, Adrian Holdstock.
Yeah.
Okay, what have we
A
learnt?
tough
What
game.
have we learnt? What do we think? What have we learnt?
I've learnt-
Umpires are told.
Does he want to just not pick up the phone? Because they've given him a lot of tough decisions.
I know, it's been a tough game. What have we learnt today? I was quite strident about this when it happened. I was on comms with Bryce McGain, who's over to our left here, former Australian spinner. We're like, the ball's clearly hit Chase's pad based on the naked eye test and based on the audiograph having a spike. Late in the day, Cameron Green, a similar thing happened, where you could see the ball's glanced the pad, glanced it, but there is an audio wave there as well. On both occasions, the wave was all the way over to the right, right? All the way over to the right.
Yep.
Now, TV have explained it to us that umpires are now instructed, I didn't know this, to only consider that pad bat bit when the spike is in the middle of the audio wave.
That relies on things being synced perfectly, which they may not necessarily.
I'm just saying, I just want to say that because I was quite big on, let's get the TV umps in, specialise. I always say that. I still believe that, by the way. That would have helped Holdstock today had he had some audiographers around him. But we saw with Yashasvi Jaiswal at the MCG, there was no spike, famously, on that hook shot where he was given out on naked eye test. I wonder whether that's the one criticism I'd say. With the green one, there was naked eye evidence. You could see the ball kiss the pad on the way through. I'd argue the more you watched the Chase one, the more that felt the way as well. But interesting that since we were in...
was whether it had nicked the inside edge of the bat. So
I know it did.
He was given...
he smashed it. There's no doubt about it. It was the order. Both of them were identical. Rather, they were identical. It was pad, bat, pad for both of them. So there's no question about hitting the bat. And Holdstock was right to assess that the bat was hit before the back pad, which was the bigger thump.
Right.
This is whether it's kissed the pad. Now, the reason I'm big on TV umpires doing this as a collective in a bunker somewhere is there'll be consistency with those kind of decisions and they'll be better able to articulate what's going on. And we've had a number of these examples. I felt for Adrian Holdstock today, it's a bloody tough gig. The main reason why I want TV umpires to be specialised is to take the best umpires in the world out of the firing line. It's to preserve their careers. It's to put them under less pressure and to make sure that ultimately people feel more confident in the process. Because today, I think both of them were incorrect, but I think he actually went through, as I understand it, the correct process.
Went through the correct process to
in getting the wrong answer,
Yes.
which really, that's...
Which was similar to the low catch yesterday, where, again, correct process and probably the wrong answer.
Yeah, which, again, this is a nightmare, right? Anyone who's too strident here, always discount people on the margins of these debates. People who tell you everything's right or everything's wrong, usually they're starting from a pretty strong position to begin. This is a fucking difficult job, and I feel like we as a game need to do better to support our umpires, and today was a great example of it, even if the wrinkle in all of this, I reckon both were out. There you go.
Yeah, I think Green's one was certainly out. I
Yep.
think definitely brushed that front pad and would have been smashing middle stump. But it didn't count for too much anyway because he was out not long after that.
Yeah, procedural. I love that. I actually love the cricket gods there, right?
Yeah.
That catch was 2-3 balls after when he steered it to first slip when Chase took it. That was proper cricket god stuff.
My real Hall of Fame today, after the 2 catches went down in Shamar Joseph's first over, and I was sitting down there in the 3 Ws, and he came walking back to that spot just in front of us. That whole stand, it's mostly Australian supporters sitting in the shade down there.
Yep.
A bunch of them stood to him. Everybody in that stand applauded him to the fence, like genuinely, not sarcastically. Like everybody in that stand was like, "You just bowled a fucking brilliant over, and you did not get rewarded. You got dudded." And there was this genuine sort of sympathy, like rather than people gloating about the fact that the wicket hadn't fallen, there was love going over the fence to him, and he was quite touched by it. You could see he came up to right up to the fence and applauded the crowd, and was trying to contain his frustration. He was looking to the sky and sort of doing his deep breathing, and he spoke last night about how you just have to accept it and go back to your marking pole again, but it must have been difficult with 2 and 3 balls going down.
Yeah, not to the Aussie fans. It's hot out here and they're having a great time and they know their cricket. People who make a commitment to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to be here clearly love the stuff. Last one from me. Cummins is wearing his old baggy green. Don't know why.
Okay.
Don't know why.
Got the new
He
one.
told me about the new one and he's not wearing it in the game. Couldn't tell you.
Last one from me. There's this trend recently in the last few years in Barbados of flying kites and attaching them to things, and they've got like noisemakers attached to them.
right.
Have you noticed this thing when you're walking around and you hear this like kind of noise way up in the air?
I will now.
All over town.
Okay.
And it's like apparently like a competitive thing, maybe it's a young men thing where they put kites up with noisy, those things that whiffle around in the wind and make noise and annoy everybody.
Let's all fly a kite.
Right. They're all
to
over
the
the
highest
joint,
heights.
right? And another thing is we don't have spider cam here, so they've been using a drone to fly around
Yep.
and do the aerial shots. Now there's a kite that has got caught up on that light
yeah, I
tower
can see it.
behind us,
Yeah.
which you can't quite see on the camera, but Adam can
Maybe you
see.
can.
The kite's got caught up there,
not quite.
and the string going down to it has caught the aerial drone, has snagged its rotors in the kite string, and the TV drone is stuck up there, and they can't get it down, and it's still there. That's my Hall of Fame.
Lovely place to leave it. We've got things to do, places to be. This has been The Final Word. Maurice Blackburn Lawyers. Patreon.com/The Final Word to help us do what we want to do and what we love to do on behalf of our audience around the world each year. Good night. Night 2. Anything can happen tomorrow. It's going to be fun. Bye.
We'll be back, Bridgetown. See you then.